Hello. I'm wondering if you can give a brief overview of your experience investing in Portugal in real estate. I know you guys have invested both in the US as well as Portugal and wanted to know the differences law wise, financing wise, if someone was trying to plan a budget for startup funds to purchase an investment property, what should that include, or at least how much should that be? Also, what are the major differences that we would be aware of in the sense of, you know, between, U.S. laws and financing versus Portugal and how things are done? What strategies are most effective? Is it the same flips, long-term hold? I do know they have an affordable housing scheme that is beneficial tax-wise, as well as, BRRRR method specifically by rehab, repair, or refinance and repeat. Just any overview that you could share from your experience would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Mm, I love that question.
Hey guys, in this video, we are sharing our experience with the process of buying and financing a home here in Portugal as Americans. So, we're going to be sharing it from part of a podcast audio response that we recorded for our 365 Days to Fire program students, just to give you an inside peek of what it's like to be in the program. As part of the 365 Days to Fire program, in addition to these monthly audio responses, we also have monthly live Q&As, small accountability group activities, book clubs, fire action guides, and incredible in-person meetups and a 2-day conference here in Portugal. If you're interested in signing up for next year's program, make sure you join our newsletter to get our notices, and the link is in the description below.
So,
It's very different.
no. I
You don't
disagree.
think so?
I
Oh,
disagree, homeboy.
okay.
I disagree. No.
All right.
It's very similar. There are more similarities to investing in Portuguese real estate than there are differences.
Oh, okay.
And first of all, anyone can invest in real estate here, right? You do have to get a special NIF,
Yeah.
but anyone can get that. It's super easy. So anyone can invest here. Like how you go about finding real estate, making offers on real estate, using an agent, if you can get a mortgage, all of these things are similar, right? The outline is the same. The concept is still the same. No, because in some countries it's very, very different. Like you can go to some countries where like foreigners aren't allowed to own, right? You can lease for 90 years in Thailand, but you can never own.
Oh, right. Yeah,
right?
you can never own the land, right?
No,
Yeah.
you can own property here as a foreigner.
Right.
You can get a mortgage here as a foreigner. There are so many like down payments. It's called a down payment here.
Okay.
Deposits. It's a deposit here.
Yeah.
Right.
Let me tell you about some of the differences that.
No, but I just want to like talk about this from the perspective of that you aren't going to another planet to invest.
Yeah, that's true. That's
right?
true.
You can have your contracts and make your offers in Portuguese and in English.
That's true.
Right?
Yes. And I will say, I'm not saying it's I'm saying they're very different from my perspective, and then we can go back and forth about those things. But to be clear, we have financed 2 homes here in Portugal. We've purchased 2 homes cash. We've purchased 2 homes via financing. So I think that definitely what you said, it's not impossible, and it's not overly difficult either. I think that the way they set it up is just different. So for example, probably people already know, if you've been looking at real estate in Portugal, they have no MLS. That is very different. The way that homes are posted and how agents represent them is also very different than, and I'll compare it to the States because that's where our other investments were. We're in the States. So for example, when a home is listed and you contact someone, let's say you look on Idealista, that's the most popular platform for finding homes in Portugal. It's called idealista.pt. So when you're looking at those homes, you may see the same home listed 10 different times, and it's listed by a different agent each time. Each of those agents are representing the seller of the home. So if you contact them, they represent the seller, but then they represent you when you're buying the home if you don't have another agent that's contacting them. So that's one difference. I think in terms of financing, a very big difference compared to the States is that the States, typically the norm is to have a fixed mortgage. So maybe typically a 30-year fixed mortgage. And in Portugal, when you're financing, it's variable. So what you can do is set it up for a fixed period of time, for example, maybe like 5 years, but then after that, it becomes variable. So I think that's a really big difference for people that invest in the States, for example, that have that fixed payment and they know exactly what they're going to be paying over the entire 30 years. I think that can create some sort of anxiety for people if they're looking at financing here and saying like, oh, what am I supposed to do? Now you can get a fixed term mortgage here in Portugal. It's not common. You can still get it, but the interest rates are also going to be higher at a fixed rate.
Okay.
What else is different? I gotta sell my is different thing.
No. No, there's differences and there's similarities. But I think what would be very beneficial is to walk through the process very quickly.
Okay.
And as we walk through this process, we can identify similarities and differences, especially if you're coming at this as an investor.
Okay.
So I'm investor Joe from America, and
right.
I've landed in Portugal, and I'm like, I'm getting me some property. For some reason,
I love that accent.
For some reason, I got a cowboy accent.
Okay.
But okay, so you land here in Portugal, and where do you get started?
Okay.
Right. If I'm getting started, first of all, I need to be able to identify like, what is my strategy? Am I buying homes to flip? Because you can do that here. Am I buying them to rent, or am I buying it for myself? Am I doing anything? All of the different strategies that you would have in the US, you can do here. Come up with your strategy, and then that's going to determine how you approach each property. So let's say you're buying homes to flip them, right? You want to find an agent that can help you find deals. Now, you can go out on your own and try to find these deals, but because you're a newcomer, it's going to be very challenging. So if there's someone here that can help you find what is a deal, because the other problem is when you come here, this is the big difference. They don't have comps like they have in the US. There's no like comparable sales that you can say like, this is a good deal, this is a bad deal. So since you're just getting here, you need to find someone else that is looking out for your best interest that can help you determine what's a good deal or not. Otherwise, you need to spend more time here to develop that knowledge and skills. Okay. Once you have your strategy, you can go out and you can do your search. You can identify what's a good deal, what's a bad deal. Then when it comes to making an offer, you make an offer just like you would in the States. You make an offer with your contingencies, with your strategy. If you want to buy the house and all the furniture inside of it, whatever the case may be, there's a strategy. You make that offer. Now, how you buy that house, again, depends on your particular strategy.
Yeah.
Are you going to be using cash, or are you going to need to get a mortgage? If you're going to be using cash, there's a strategy when you use cash. You lowball people because you're bringing a guaranteed sale to the table. If you're going to be getting a mortgage, well, then what you need to do is make contact with a bank here and make sure you get pre-approved first. And as a foreigner, this is where the difference is when you're financing a property. When you're financing a property as a foreigner, you usually have to put more money down. But what's absolutely crazy is that they don't have like a credit check system here for foreigners. So what they're going to ask you to do is to provide your credit reports from the US, your income from the US, everything you have from the US,
W-2s.
your W-2, all that stuff. They're going to look at that so that they can give you a mortgage. And just like in the States, when they give you a mortgage, the house that you buy is going to be what the bank uses as collateral. So because the bank is going to be using that house as collateral, whatever house you buy, the bank has to approve. They're going to do inspections. They're going to do appraisal. Well, they're not going to do inspections. Well, they do more like an appraisal. They're going to do an appraisal. And if everything's good to go, you can move forward and buy the house like that. When you get to the point where you're at the table and everything's about to close, this is something you have to keep in mind. What's different about Portugal is when you go to the closing, you're going to be sitting there face to face with the person that you're buying the house from, right? Like if you're buying the house from a little old lady, you're going to be sitting there, little old ladies, you're going to be buying the house
Signing
from her,
back and forth.
signing back and forth. It's a
Right.
very interactive thing. It's very intimate. Small room, lawyers reading things back and forth in English and in Portuguese, and you guys have to both agree to that. The other thing is when you buy a house here, you really need to pay attention to what you're going to be paying in transfer taxes and fees. Most Americans aren't ready for that because you pay most of the taxes for your property when you buy it. Once you own the property, taxes are so inexpensive here that that's something that we really love about Portugal. It's like the taxes aren't going to eat you alive in Portugal. The property taxes aren't going to eat you alive. But that first tax bill when you buy the property, it's usually high, but over the life of the property, tiny tax bill. So once you have your property, you guys have closed, you get to the part where you are like, you have this property. Now what do you do to it? If you need to fix that property up, hopefully you already had contractors lined up, because that's the biggest challenge you will have as a real estate investor in Portugal, is getting people to do the work on the homes. If you're handy, amazing.
Yeah.
Like you're like ahead of the game. But if you are going to rely on contractors and people to help you fix that property up, then you should have done that yesterday. You don't want to be
It's all part of the plan.
you don't want to own that house and then be like trying to figure out who's going to do that. Okay, you get the house all fixed up, you have a strategy to sell it. Then basically, if you're selling it yourself, you start that process all over again, but you're on the other side. Now, if you're renting the property or you're Airbnb-ing it, then it looks a little different. But you know what? It's still it's very similar to what you would go through in the U.S., except you may have to pay a little bit more in income tax on that, or basically the money that you make from the rental. You're gonna have to pay a higher tax on. And so you need to know that calculation to make sure that the deal works as a rental. That's essentially it, right?
Yeah, one other thing that I think is important to note that you didn't mention is that when you make an offer on a house, you typically go through two phases. You sign a CPCV, and then after that, you get through all the paperwork with the bank issues everything, and then the bank issues the check for the purchase of the home. The CPCV, depending on what the agreement is between the buyer and seller, typically requires a down payment. So it could be up to 10% of the value of the home that you're paying over to secure this home before you even get to the final step of the bank issuing the money for the property if you finance it. The thing about providing the down payment through the CPCV is that, say you like a home, and let's say it's $500,000. So the CPCV requires that you pay 10% down, which would be $50,000. If you pay this money, you sign the agreement, you pay this money, and then later you think, actually, I saw this house over here that I'd prefer to have. I'm going to go with this house instead. Once you put that down payment, once you sign the agreement and you put that down payment down, you are out of that down payment.
Well, it's like a deposit.
It's a deposit. So if you don't have an agreement, a contingency based on your loan either, if the loan doesn't go through and you can't buy the house for whatever reason, you lose that deposit also. So you want to be careful with making sure that the loan will go through, but then also drafting the CPCV, which is just a small portion of all the paperwork that you have to go through. You have to make sure that it includes any type of contingency that you may require to ensure that the deposit, well, it ultimately goes towards the house, but that the deposit can come back to you if these contingencies aren't met.
Yeah. Let me ask you something. Would you be a landlord here, Christina?
No.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess
No.
Airbnb, I don't see Airbnb as a landlord because we've done Airbnbs here. I think that if you want to be a renter in Portugal, you need to understand the rental laws.
Well, if you want to be a landlord.
I'm sorry, yeah, what did I say? If you want to be a landlord in Portugal, you have to understand the rental laws that are very, very pro renter.
The tenant rights.
Tenant rights are significant here. The process of evicting someone if they don't pay their rent could take years. So much so that it's sort of like this underground whispered thing that if you want a tenant out of your property that hasn't been paying, rather than go through years of litigation to get that person out, people just pay the person off and say, okay, I'll give you X number of euros for you to just move out, because that process is quicker and more cost efficient than going through the legal system. So because of that, I couldn't handle it.
There's a lot of things about being a landlord here that if you don't go into this with all of your research, doing like research, you could be in for a big surprise. I mean, the laws here are very tenant friendly, and they're also age friendly. Like they're
renters, not
for buyers. That's another. If you have a tenant that's over a certain age, you can't evict them at all.
Right.
Like they
essentially
they have right to that place for life.
Yeah.
And we've seen properties that landlords will try to sell, and you have to inherit that elderly tenant until that elderly tenant passes away. There's a lot more complexity when you're talking about coming in here and being a landlord. This is the last little like quirk about real estate here. And when it comes to getting a mortgage, if you're over a certain age, you don't qualify. You won't qualify for mortgages here. Yeah, I know that sounds like ageism, but that's just how it is here.
Yeah, so with banks, they have a certain age that, let's say you decide you want to come to Portugal at 70, you will most likely 99.9% of the time not be able to get a mortgage. And even if you did, it would be like a couple years where you were so this happens even if you are younger, but they look at, if you get a 30-year loan, how old will you be at the 30-year mark? So sometimes if the bank's cutoff age is 65, for example, and you're 40 when you want this mortgage, they will give you a 25-year mortgage. So yeah, your age can definitely impact how you are the terms of your finance with the bank.
Yeah. The final thing I'll say is that
we keep thinking of things.
no, because I do want to leave on an optimistic note. And I'm very optimistic about investing in Portugal. I think that the opportunities are incredible here. I think that a lot of the fact that the real estate market isn't as developed as it is in the US, you're almost on like the final frontier. This is like one of the last places where you can, like one of the last places in Europe where you can still buy a lot of deals like the old-fashioned way. Yeah. Like your neighbor, you could be really good friends with your neighbor and be like, you know what? The neighbor be like, hey, I want to buy your house. Okay, let's buy it. And it's like a handshake and we sign a contract and you're good to go. Like the U.S. is such a capitalistic place that you have people sending people flyers and knocking on doors. They are out and about finding real estate deals hard there. Here, there's a lot of opportunities because people aren't implementing a lot of those same tactics that they use in the US here. Like, I don't think we really talk about that on our YouTube videos, but if you wanted to come here and be like an aggressive real estate investor and like put up those signs like we buy all houses, call 1-800-WE-BUY-YOUR-HOUSE, you could do that. I've never seen a sign like that here.
Yeah, that's true.
So
there's opportunity.
There's opportunities. All right.